Hey everybody, and welcome back to another league logo ranking. It's kind of been a while since I've done one of these things, and truth be told, I missed it, so I wanted to do another one. Today we're going to be looking at one of my all-time favorite baseball leagues, which is the Pioneer League. Sadly, it is no longer an MLB affiliated league. As of a few years ago, this lost its MLB affiliation as a rookie short season single A baseball league. But on the bright side, it is still very much a professional league. It is a MLB Partner league. That means there's still a ton of talent and excitement and things to cheer for and care about for this league. It's an awesome league. I actually worked for the Missoula Osprey in Missoula, Montana for about 4 summers in a row. I know they're no longer called the Missoula Osprey. They are now the Missoula Paddleheads, but I still represent my Osprey because it's the team that's near and dear to my heart, as are many of these teams that I'm about to talk about here. I've been to a ton of these stadiums. They're just beautiful, small little ballparks in really unassuming but beautiful communities that have a lot to be proud of with their baseball teams, and I'm really excited to get into this, so let's just go ahead and start. We're going to kick things off at number 10 with the Grand Junction Jackalopes. First of all, props to the city of Grand Junction, Colorado for picking a team name and identity that's very much unique and one of a kind here. This is actually the newest logo. This just got unveiled a few months ago, and it's kind of the inspiration for me wanting to make this video in the first place, because up until very recently, this team was still known as the Grand Junction Rockies, back when they were affiliated, obviously, with Colorado Rockies. And this logo has always sucked, plain and simple. It just relied way too heavily on its parent club of the Colorado Rockies. It just looks like a Pizza Hut, essentially. So, it really did need a change, and this is what they came up with. A little tip of the cap to Grand Junction for attempting to do something unique here, but man, this is kind of a hot mess, in my opinion. It's probably not the first thing people notice, but it's the most distracting for me, is the fact that the fonts are just so different. The Grand Junction font has some serifs, and it's kind of angular and jagged, and it just feels a little bit more like kind of Western style, and I think that's why they have it on the signboard there. And then on the flip side of that, the Jackalopes font is very rounded and bubbly, and so those two fonts just really clash right off the bat. I'm also not sure what the black and purple and blue diamond shape that the jackalope is in. The bat coming through the front of his antlers is hilarious, and I really like that. I think that's a really cool touch. But the really cartoony, goofy looking expression that the jackalope is making, again, I really respect that they tried to do something unique here, but this really just did not stick the landing for me. Big improvement from the previous logo with the Grand Junction Rockies, but I'm not sure if this was absolutely the best that money could have bought. At number 9, we've got the Rocky Mountain Vibes. And look, I'm not an apologist on this here. I do not like this team at all. I feel really bad for the city of Colorado Springs, who at the time lost a AAA team. It's just a huge bummer and loss for that city. And a lot of things had to come into place to make that happen, and it's the reason why we no longer have the Helena Brewers, also the Pioneer League team. Shout out to them. I got to see them in their final season in 2017. We're gonna actually jump in here for just a second. I'm gonna clear the record on why I don't like certain teams. So just so we can get this story all together here, we've got the Helena Brewers of the Pioneer League that have been around since 1978 until 2018. This team is what's gonna move to Colorado Springs, and we're gonna say goodbye to the Sky Sox, which have played from 1988 to 2018. They're gonna rebrand as the Rocky Mountain Vibes, and this franchise right here, the AAA Colorado Springs Sky Sox, are going to move to San Antonio to become the Missions. And this will sound silly because the Missions have been around for a very long time, since 1888, but this franchise technically moves to Amarillo to become the AA Amarillo Sod Poodles. This means that Colorado Springs lost their AAA team so that San Antonio could go from AA to AAA. Good for them, good for San Antonio, but this was very short-lived because in 2020, minor league baseball was completely shook up, where Major League stepped in and just sent so many teams to different divisions, so none of this really mattered. This all lasted for 2 years, and then in 2020, San Antonio went back down to AA anyway. So for all of this to happen, I think Helena ultimately comes out the biggest loser, unfortunately, in all of this. 1978 to 2018 is 50 years of affiliated baseball in the city of Helena, Montana, and it's just gone in a poof. Really, so that this team right here could exist, the AA Amarillo Sod Poodles. The reason that this team ultimately exists is why we no longer have baseball in Helena, Montana. So big shame all around. There you have it. That's the play-by-play. Hope you enjoyed. Back to the video. I'm very confused about the branding and the identity of this team. Is it the campfire, or is it this marshmallow dude? From what I understand, this is the actual logo with Rocky Mountain up top and Vibes, with the campfire over, I think that's supposed to be a baseball bat or a stick. I don't know. I do think it's a smart move to utilize the C in the Colorado state flag throughout the branding and identity here, but overall, this just feels very forced. It feels like a corporate company trying to make something unique and relatable that's like, oh yeah, like the young folks say vibes and chill vibes and good vibes and all that, so let's just use that and people will buy the merch. It just leaves a weird taste in my mouth, and I can't quite put it into words here. It just feels a little like too forced and try hard. Folks from Colorado Springs in the comments here, tell me how you feel about this. I think that this is just too busy and too forced and just too much of trying to be something too unique here. At number 8, we've got the Billings Mustangs, which is a team that I really like, and they play in a ballpark that I absolutely love. This team was affiliated with the Cincinnati Reds for a very long time, and kind of see bits and pieces of that here with that red and white and the black trim. Very classic, iconic looking baseball colors, and that Mustang silhouetted in the front is just a nice, classy touch. Everything ties together very nicely here. It's very unoffensive, and it's very approachable as a logo. There's nothing wrong with this. The font is also very cool, but it's just not as exciting, compared to some of these other logos that we're gonna see. Next up, we've got the Boise Hawks, and again, we're starting to get into some good stuff here. This league is like stacked with phenomenal logos. The talons over the baseball here is kind of a newer sort of mark on this branding here, because before they had this bee, like it's like a hawk with that bat that makes a bee for Boise, and I think that was really cool, but I actually really like this better. I think this works a lot nicer and it just seems a little bit more simple. The only thing that's bringing this down for me personally is just the color choice. I don't love that green and red and yellow in Hawks. Kind of an interesting color palette, and that's the only reason I have it lower. Honestly, it's just colors. I would bring it up a little higher if it wasn't for those colors. At number 6, we've got the Northern Colorado Owls. This was a team that up until a few years ago played in Orem, Utah, so they were known as the Orem Owls. This logo is sick. Honestly, that owl is badass with the eyes and the beak. It's very ferocious and tough. The crossing bats, always a cool look in my opinion. This would be higher, again, if it just wasn't for the colors, which still look very cool here. You know, that kind of goldeny, like silvery blue looked very cool, but compared to when they were the Orem Owls and they had this red going on, man, that was so cool. It just stood out a lot better. The eyes and the bats and the beak and the face on the owl just stood out so much better, and it just looked a lot fiercer and tougher. It just feels a lot muddier and more muted with this new color combination. And so again, while it's still very cool and very tough and has some great symmetry, I just don't love the colors. That's it, plain and simple. And now with this next one, the Missoula Paddleheads, this one is kind of difficult for me to talk about in a lot of ways because again, I'm still warming up to this name change. I've always known them as the Osprey, so in my heart, you know, they will always be the Osprey. I do like what they've done with some of their branding here. This hat in particular, I think is pretty awesome with the M and the antlers coming out of it. I thought that this was always a really cool hat. I think this is the road hat. Got the moose head for the home hats, and we also have this alternate hat design with the peace sign. There's a big peace sign that you can see from downtown Missoula up on the hills, and it's just an iconic landmark for the city, and so it's pretty cool to have that as an alternate design, and so good job there. Like, I think that this rebrand has done a lot of good things, but it's just kind of hard to look past the Osprey, you know, because there was an Osprey nest in center field at the ballpark, and there still is, but you know, during home games, that Osprey would go out of its nest and would fly around the stadium holding a fish. So to go from that, which the ballpark in the city was really well known for, to this, which Missoula is not known for moose at all. There is a double meaning with paddleheads being both moose and people who float the river, which floating the Clark Fork is a can't miss, must, iconic summertime Missoula, Montana activities. And that's why we see the paddle in paddleheads below the word paddle, fittingly. And we also see in different pieces of this rebrand, the moose floating the river, and he looks very chill and lazy and having a good time. So, there's a lot of things to like about, some of the pieces for this identity, but I just don't think it resonates with the city of Missoula quite as well as the Osprey did. And so it does bum me out just a bit, but it's still very cool. I love the baseball in the antler. I think that's a pretty fun touch. And honestly, that yellow trim going on with the green is super sharp and very crisp. And so objectively speaking, this is a strong branding. And this was years ago that this name change happened, and I'm still warming up to it, truth be told. And it just hasn't quite hit the mark for me yet. It will probably someday, but until then, I'm still be repping the Missoula Osprey. Next up, we've got the Glacier Range Riders, which is another team that is near and dear to my heart. Right out of the gate, this is the newest team here in the Pioneer League, and the identity here, the branding, it's so strong, it's so good. I actually made a video about it when they first dropped their name. It's almost a year ago at this point. Feel free and check it out. We've got a dual mascot sort of thing going on. We've got Cliff, the mountain goat. We've also got Huck, the grizzly bear. That's a nice little nod to the fact that huckleberries are such a big thing in this region of Montana. And he's driving in a jammer bus, which is so funny. Again, those old jammer buses are just such a symbol, such an icon for Glacier National Park. And so there's just such strong identity here. Actually, we're gonna switch some things up. I should have done this at the beginning, but we're gonna go with the Range Riders here for just a hot minute. I love this hat. This is probably my favorite running hat at the moment. Props to Glacier, to the Range Riders, identity, the branding. This is so strong, easily deserving of of a top spot here. It kind of segues into the top 3, and you could really make a case for any of these top 3 we're about to talk about to rotate in and out of the number 1 spot. I would say that's true of like the top 5 teams actually. But at number 3, I'm gonna give it to the Great Falls Voyagers out of Great Falls, Montana. You know, it's funny, I don't even have to put the logo up here because I've got this poster which has the logo on it. This is the 2022 schedule poster that my buddy Drew sent to me, so shout out. You and I have actually seen a game together. We had a great time. I love this ballpark and this city. Great Falls, Montana holds a strong place in my heart here. Great Falls really leaned in to the spacey alien theme vibe that it's kind of known for. There's kind of like a folklore tale of aliens existing or being spotted in Great Falls. It's just so funny and fitting that they leaned into that. And the logo is just super strong as a result of that. You know, we've kind of got this Saturn-y orbit thing with the baseball going around the planet, and it's really cool because they can rotate in, you know, instead of just saying Great Falls Voyagers, they'll rotate in and simplify as just a GF or even a V, which I have that hat right here. So we're gonna switch things up again and go with that, with the V for Voyagers. I love that. The colors here are awesome with that kind of lime alien-y green and the red and the white and the black. Awesome balance and fantastic font too. I love this font choice. It's so unique. It's very futuristic and spacey, and I love it. Everything just ties together so nicely. What a cool brand and logo design. This is awesome. Also shout out Orbit, this little logo here. I just think it's so cute. I love this logo. This is awesome. Great Falls holds, again, a very special place in my heart. At number 2, I'm gonna give it to the Ogden Raptors out of Ogden, Utah. This got a very recent facelift, and thank God it did, because if it was still the old logo, that we can see here, this would easily be towards the bottom 10, but in like an endearing way, because this is like lovably terrible. But this new design is lovably incredible. The color here, I don't really know what you call that. It's kind of like a greenish blue. It works very well because it's pretty unique and we don't see it a whole lot with that white trim that's on it. It really makes it stand out, and that red going on too with the eye and the tongue and the raptor really make everything pop and stand out nicely here. Again, very unique font too. It's very angular and jagged, and it complements the ferociousness of the raptor and that energy and flow to it. Again, it's kind of going up at an angle as well, so it just kind of gives it that sort of flow, and yeah, I have nothing negative to say about this logo. It's awesome in every way. That said, for number 1, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to the Idaho Falls Shuckers. Or Shuckers, I've never been 100% on that. What I have been 100% on is that this logo is a banger. The actual Shucker bird itself is very, very tough, and actually this standalone logo right here is just beautiful. It's perfect. Chef's kiss on that. And looking at this, we've got the words Idaho and Falls on either side of that K that add this really nice sort of balance, and it's set against this beautiful backdrop of those mountains in the background, which is fantastic because, you know, a lot of people outside of the state of Idaho aren't really gonna know what Idaho Falls is all about, but they see those mountains and it just automatically creates this sense of identity and place within the city. Personally, I've never been to Idaho Falls, but seeing those mountains makes me want to go visit, like straight up. I think this looks incredible. I love the one piece that all of this is contained in, and it's got a lot of action and energy to it. And overall, yeah, Idaho Falls, banger of a logo. This is incredible. And y'all, that's gonna do it. 10 teams, very simple, very straightforward. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You know, let me know what leagues you'd like to see next. Thank you guys and take care. We'll see you in the next video.